My name is Anna Collins, I'm 27, and for years I've been the one quietly paying the bills, fixing the messes, and keeping this family afloat. I never thought I'd be telling this story, but if you've ever felt betrayed by the people who were supposed to love you most, stay with me. And before I dive in, please hit like, subscribe, and share this channel so more people can see how twisted family loyalty can get. Your comments mean more than you know. It started with a single sentence. My mom's voice, calm like she was reading a grocery list. "We had to make some hard choices, Anna. There isn't enough room for you on the trip this year." I blinked at her, waiting for the punchline. Dad was standing behind her, arms folded like he was bracing for impact. "Quiet time might be good for you," he added, as if being erased from my own family's tradition was some kind of spa retreat. For a moment, the room tilted. Lake Havasu wasn't just a vacation, it was our anchor. No matter how chaotic things got, that trip was supposed to remind us we still belonged to one another. And now, apparently, I was disposable. "I'm your daughter," I whispered, the words catching in my throat. "Not some guest you can bump off the list." Jackie, my older sister, didn't even look up from her phone. She muttered, "It's complicated, Anna. Don't make this harder." I could feel my heart pounding in my ears. "Complicated? You made room for Jack's little brother, didn't you? A 14-year-old stranger gets a seat, but your own daughter doesn't?" Dad's jaw clenched. Mom shot Jackie a sharp glance, like I wasn't supposed to know. Silence hung in the air. That was my answer. I laughed, but it came out hollow. "Got it. I'm the easiest one to cut. The extra piece no one misses." I walked out before they could say another word. The click of the front door behind me was like a gavel slamming down. Anger bubbled under my skin, but beneath it was something worse, the realization that I had just seen my place in this family with terrifying clarity. This wasn't about space on a boat. It was about space in their lives, and I didn't have any. The next morning, I told myself I wouldn't think about it. No texts, no calls. I buried my hurt under coffee and busy work. But betrayal has a way of finding you, even when you try to shut it out. It came through my phone, glowing like a wound. A notification, Jackie's Instagram story. I tapped without thinking. There she was, Jackie and Jack, in matching shirts, drinks the size of their heads, smiling on a dock under the Arizona sun. Behind them, the lake shimmered like something out of a postcard. I froze. My thumb hovered, but curiosity pulled me deeper. Tap. Mom, bronzed and relaxed, her arm around a kid I didn't recognize. Tap. Dad grinning wide, holding up a margarita like it was a trophy. Tap. A group shot on the boat, the caption in cursive letters, "Grateful for every one of them." Every one of them. I read it twice, my chest tightening. My mom, who told me quiet time would be good for me, was now posting her gratitude for a stranger. That boy, 14, maybe 15, wasn't some random guest. He was Jack's younger brother. They'd made room for him, just not for me. I called Jackie, my voice trembling. "So you had space, just not for your own sister?" She sighed like I was the inconvenience. "Anna, don't twist this. Evan needed it more. He's going through stuff." "And I'm not?" My voice cracked. "I've been paying your bills for years, Jackie. You think I didn't need one weekend where I wasn't carrying everyone?" Her silence burned louder than any words. Finally, she said, "Stop being dramatic. It's just a trip." Just a trip. I hung up before she could say more. My phone slipped from my hand onto the couch, the sound echoing in the silence of my apartment. I sat there staring at the wall, the caption still burning in my mind. Grateful for every one of them, except me. That was the moment the hurt hardened into something else. Not just sadness, not just anger, something sharper. A vow forming in the back of my throat. If they could erase me so easily, maybe it was time they learned what it felt like to be erased. After hanging up on Jackie, I thought the worst sting was over. I was wrong. Later that evening, my phone lit up again. This time, Mom. For a second, I almost let it ring out. But some part of me, The part still desperate for her approval, swiped to answer. "Anna," she began, her voice firm, like she'd been rehearsing. "You overreacted. Jackie told me you're upset, but you need to understand. We had to make choices." I swallowed hard. "Choices? You chose Jack's kid brother over your own daughter?" There was a pause, then the sharp inhale I knew too well. "Don't make this about favoritism. Evan's family is going through a crisis. We opened our hearts to him. That's what family does." The words cut deeper than she realized. "Family? You opened your heart to him while closing the door on me. Do you even hear yourself?" Her tone sharpened. "Anna, you're always so sensitive. We thought you'd benefit from time alone. Maybe some reflection." I laughed, bitter and short. "Reflection? While I cover your bills, your groceries, your vacations, that's what you call reflection?" The silence stretched long. I pictured her sitting on that rented boat, sun-tanned, wine glass in hand, perfectly unbothered. Finally, she said quietly, almost like a verdict, "You've changed. You don't act like part of this family anymore. Maybe that's the problem." Those words landed heavier than any scream. I felt my throat tighten, but I forced my voice steady. "No, Mom. The problem is you don't see me unless you need something, and when you don't, I'm disposable." Her breath wavered on the other end, but she didn't deny it. She just muttered, "You'll regret speaking to me like this," before the line went dead. I sat frozen, staring at my reflection in the darkened window. For years, I'd told myself our bond was unshakable, that Mom and I had something stronger than all the petty fights, but now it felt like glass, shattered with one careless blow. Thor nudged my leg, sensing the storm inside me. I sank to the floor, burying my face in his fur, letting the hot sting of betrayal spill out in tears. That was the night I realized something I couldn't unsee. My mother wasn't my anchor anymore. She was part of the tide pulling me under, and I wasn't going to drown for her. The call with Mom replayed in my head for hours, each word digging deeper until I couldn't breathe. To calm down, I opened my laptop, planning to distract myself with work emails. Instead, I noticed a notification from my credit monitoring app. At first, I thought it was spam. Then I read it. "New transaction alert. $1,237 at Home Depot." I froze. I hadn't been to Home Depot in months. Clicking through the statement, more charges appeared. Gas stations 3 states away, Airbnb bookings in Arizona, even a series of Amazon packages I never ordered. My chest tightened as the truth hit me. It wasn't just thoughtless spending. They were using me. Again. I grabbed my phone and called Jackie. She picked up on the third ring, laughter in the background. "What now, Anna?" she snapped. "Did you use my card for the Airbnb?" My voice shook, but not from fear, from fury. Her silence was loud. Finally, she said, "Oh, don't be dramatic. It's a family account." We all agreed. "No," I hissed. "We agreed it was for emergencies, not vacations, not kitchen remodels, not whatever the hell this is." She sighed, like I was a child throwing a tantrum. "You worry too much. It's not like you can't afford it." That was it. The switch flipped. "Do you hear yourself? I've been paying off thousands of dollars just to protect my credit, and you're standing there justifying theft." Jackie's tone turned sharp. "It's not theft when it's family. Stop acting like a stranger with a grudge." The line went dead. I sat at my desk, staring at the list of transactions until the numbers blurred. My hands shook as I whispered to myself, "They've been planning this. They needed me gone so I wouldn't notice." Thor patted over and rested his head on my lap, grounding me. I scratched behind his ears, trying to steady my breathing. This wasn't just about being left behind anymore. It was about betrayal in black and white, written across my bank statements. And for the first time, I knew this wasn't a wound I could ignore. It was a war they had started. The bank app was still open on my laptop, the endless stream of charges glaring back at me like a confession they never intended me to find. My fingers hovered above the keyboard, torn between fear and rage. Then, as if on cue, my phone buzzed. A notification from Instagram. Jackie's story. I tapped it open, and there they were. My mom, my dad, Jackie, Jack, even Aunt Rachel, lined up on a dock in matching shirts, raising oversized margaritas like they were starring in a travel commercial. The caption read, "Grateful for every one of them." Every one of them. Except me. I stared at the photo until my eyes burned. My chest tightened, but instead of tears, something else rose inside me. Clarity. They wanted to erase me quietly, like I was the disposable one. Fine. If they insisted on making me invisible, then I would make them very visible. I took a screenshot, my thumb trembling only slightly, then opened Facebook. The blank status box blinked at me like an invitation. I typed slowly, deliberately. Funny how my family told me there wasn't enough room for me on the Lake Havasu trip this year, yet here they are, matching shirts, giant margaritas, all smiles. Guess who's been paying off their credit cards so they could make memories? Spoiler, me. I attached the screenshot, hovered over the post button, and pressed it before doubt could creep in. The effect was immediate. Notifications exploded on my phone. Friends from high school, co-workers, even distant cousins. Comments rolled in faster than I could read. Wait, what? This is beyond cruel. You don't deserve this, Anna. A private message popped up from my cousin Laura. I always wondered why they treated you like that. Good for you for saying it out loud. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I wasn't crazy. I wasn't alone. But my satisfaction didn't last long. 10 minutes later, Jackie called. "You really had to make this public?" Her voice was sharp, shaky. "Do you know how humiliating this is for Mom?" I laughed bitterly. Humiliating? You humiliated me the second you decided a stranger's kid deserved a spot more than I did. You're just mad people finally see it. You've lost it, she spat. This isn't how family handles things. Then maybe I don't have a family, I said, and hung up. I leaned back in my chair, Thor resting his head on my foot, and exhaled. They had crossed a line, and now, so had I. This wasn't just a private betrayal anymore. It was out in the open, where their excuses and gaslighting couldn't reach me. For once, they would feel what it was like to be cornered. I thought the storm might settle after my post. Naive of me. For one full day, the silence almost tricked me into believing they were embarrassed enough to back off. But by the second evening, the pounding started. It was close to 8 p.m. when my front door shook under a heavy fist. Thor launched into barking, his deep growl vibrating through the apartment walls. I froze for a moment, then forced myself to the peephole. There they were. My parents, Jackie, Jack, and even Aunt Rachel. My dad paced like a caged animal. Jackie shouted something I couldn't make out, and Jack leaned in so close to the door I could see his breath fogging the glass. "Anna, open the door," my dad barked. "We're not leaving until you explain yourself." I kept the chain on and cracked it just an inch. Immediately, Jack tried to push forward, only stopped by the metal catch. Thor lunged, teeth bared, and Jack flinched back with a curse. "Control that mutt," he snapped. "He's trained to protect me," I said flatly. "And right now, he's doing a great job." My mom's face appeared, lips trembling, not with sadness, but rehearsed outrage. "Do you have any idea what you've done? People are calling us, asking questions. You've humiliated this family." I laughed bitterly. "Family? You humiliated me first when you cut me out. All I did was shine a light on it." Jackie shoved her way into view, voice shrill. "You've destroyed Dad's reputation. His job's on the line because of your little stunt." "That's not my fault," I shot back. "Maybe don't commit fraud using my credit if you care so much about jobs." The hallway went silent for a beat. My dad's face hardened, the kind of silence that feels like a warning. Then Aunt Rachel hissed, "You'll regret this. You can't fight blood." Something inside me snapped. I slammed the door shut and locked every bolt. Through the wood, I said firmly, "You've already taught me what blood is worth. Now leave before I call the cops." The pounding started again, louder, angrier. Thor barked until his throat went raw. But I didn't open it this time. I sat on the couch, heart racing, phone in hand, ready to dial 911 if the chain gave way. They wanted to scare me back into silence. Instead, they made one thing crystal clear. This wasn't just about money anymore. It was war. When their fists finally stopped pounding on my door, the silence wasn't relief. It was calculation. I knew them too well. If intimidation didn't work, they'd come at me from another angle, and money was always their weapon of choice. That night, after Thor finally settled at my feet, I opened my laptop and logged into the shared credit account. My stomach churned as the transactions loaded. Airline tickets, hotel rooms, designer sunglasses. Not a cent had been mine, yet my name sat on the account like a bullseye. I muttered aloud, "So this is how they fund their perfect family vacations, on my back." My hands trembled, but not from fear anymore. It was rage mixed with clarity. The cursor hovered over the freeze account button. One click and their access would be gone. I pictured my mom's carefully staged Instagram post, Jackie's smug captions about grateful hearts, and Jack smirking at my front door like he owned the place. I whispered, "Not anymore." Then I clicked. Almost instantly my phone buzzed. First it was Dad, 7 calls in a row. Then Jackie, "What did you do?" "We're stuck in the middle of nowhere." A minute later, a text from Mom. "Anna, this is childish. Unfreeze it now." I didn't reply. Instead, I opened Venmo, sent them $1 and added a note. "Sorry, I don't have money for you." My finger lingered on the send button for a beat, then tapped it with a grim smile. By midnight, the calls had stacked to 27. Thor barked each time the phone lit up, as if echoing my refusal. Finally, I put it face down, turned off the sound, and leaned back on the couch. For the first time in years, I felt the weight shift. Their leash on me was snapping, but deep inside, I knew freezing the card was just the first shot. They wouldn't lick their wounds quietly. No, this family only knew how to escalate, and I had just declared war on their control. The night after I froze the card, the air in my apartment felt strangely light. Thor sprawled across the couch, snoring, while I sat at my desk, flipping through unpaid bills. For a brief second, I believed maybe they'd gotten the message. Maybe, just maybe, silence meant surrender. But silence in my family was never peace. It was plotting. Saturday morning, I noticed the front security door to our 6-unit building had been wedged open with a rock. My stomach tightened. Someone had propped it deliberately, someone who wanted easy access. Thor's ears shot up, his body tense. I climbed the stairs slowly, pulse hammering in my throat. The hallway smelled of wet dirt, fresh footprints trailing up to my floor. My apartment door was shut, but the deadbolt was turned wrong. I always locked it. Always. Thor growled low in his throat. I eased the door open, bracing myself. And there they were. My mother sat at my kitchen counter, sipping coffee like she lived there. Dad lounged on the couch, flipping through my unopened mail. Jackie was hunched over my iPad, scrolling with a smirk. Jack, of course, had stationed himself by the window, chewing on the last 2 slices of pizza I'd been saving for dinner. Aunt Rachel had kicked off her shoes and was rubbing lotion into her feet on my rug. Even Uncle Mike was there, standing awkwardly near the wall, hands in his pockets like he wanted to vanish. "What the hell are you doing in my apartment?" My voice cracked, but it wasn't fear. It was fury. Dad didn't flinch. "You wouldn't answer the phone. We needed to talk." "So you broke in?" My hands shook, gripping Thor's collar as he barked at Jack like he wanted blood. Mom raised her chin. "You gave us that spare key for emergencies. This is an emergency." "Running out of vacation cash isn't an emergency," I snapped. Jackie rolled her eyes. "God, Anna, you're being manipulative. You stranded us in Arizona." Jack stepped forward, chest puffed. "You've acted like family doesn't matter. Maybe you don't deserve to be part of this family." Thor lunged, nearly slipping free. Jack stumbled back with a yelp, and I almost smiled. I didn't shout. I didn't plead. I walked to the door, opened it wide, and pointed. "Get out, now!" No one moved, Rachel muttered. "Shameful, treating your parents this way." "I'm not kidding," I said, voice low and steady. 10 seconds before I call the cops." One by one, they shuffled out. Jackie hissed something under her breath. Jack glared. Rachel slammed the door like a teenager. My mom didn't say a word. Uncle Mike lingered, looking torn, then gave me the smallest nod before following the rest. When the door finally clicked shut, I locked it, twice. Thor pressed against my legs, still snarling. My apartment felt tainted, invaded. That was the moment I realized this wasn't just about money anymore. They hadn't just crossed a boundary, they'd bulldozed it. And if I didn't draw the line here, I'd never have a line again. I thought the break-in had been the peak of their madness. I was wrong. That was only the rehearsal. 3 nights later, just as I was brushing my teeth, a hard knock rattled the apartment door. Thor barked and lunged toward it, claws scraping against the floor. I glanced at the peephole. 2 uniformed officers stood in the hallway, hands resting on their belts. My stomach dropped. "Miss Parker?" one of them called. "We received a wellness check request. Can you open the door, please?" A wellness check? My hands trembled as I turned the lock. What's going on? The taller officer cleared his throat. "We got a call from your family. They're concerned about erratic behavior. Mentioned you might be a danger to yourself." The words hit like a punch. My jaw tightened. Behind the officers, I spotted shadows at the far end of the hallway. Jackie's profile, unmistakable even in poor light. My mother's hand rested on her shoulder. They hadn't even left. They wanted to watch. I forced myself to steady my voice. Do I look like a danger to myself? I work full-time, I pay rent, I walk my dog every morning. The only unstable thing here is them. Thor growled low, as if backing me up. The younger officer softened his tone. "Look, we just have to check. Can we step inside for a moment?" I let them in, seething. They glanced around my tidy living room, laundry folded, dishes stacked, Thor's food bowls lined up neatly. I crossed my arms. "Go ahead. Tell me what kind of lunatic keeps their apartment cleaner than their family's finances." The taller one cracked a faint smile, but he stayed professional. "Do you have any history of mental illness?" "No," I snapped, "but I do have a history of being used like an ATM. They didn't mention that, did they?" When the officers finally left, muttering that everything seemed fine, I stormed down the hall. Jackie and my mom were still lingering by the stairwell. "You called the cops on me?" My voice echoed, sharp enough to cut glass. Jackie didn't blink. "We're worried. You're not acting normal." "Normal?" I barked out a laugh. "Normal is bailing you out of credit card debt. Normal is paying for vacations I'm not even invited to. Now that I finally say no, suddenly I'm unstable?" Mom stepped forward, lips pursed like she was the victim. "Anna, this isn't you. Maybe you just need help." I raised my hand. Don't twist this. You didn't call because you care. You called because you couldn't control me anymore." Jack appeared from the stairwell then, arms crossed. "Honestly, maybe they're right. No one sane would turn their back on their own blood." Thor lunged, snarling, yanking me a step forward. For once, I didn't pull him back right away. I met Jack's eyes, my voice low and steady. "If you ever step near my door again, the police report will have your name on it this time." The satisfaction of seeing him flinch was the only thing that kept my legs steady. I turned, walked back inside, and slammed the door shut. That night, sleep didn't come. I sat on the couch with Thor curled against me, the aftertaste of betrayal bitter in my mouth. They weren't just smearing my finances anymore, they were trying to smear me, my sanity, my credibility. And that, I decided, was war. The night after the so-called wellness check, I barely slept. Thor dozed at my feet, twitching in his dreams, but I just stared at the ceiling, replaying the officer's words. Erratic. Unstable. My own mother had fed them that lie. By dawn, I felt hollow, like they had scraped something vital out of me. Late afternoon, just as I was dragging myself out of the shower, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. My first instinct was to ignore it. Too many blocked calls lately, but something made me swipe. "Anna, it's Mike." His voice was low, almost guilty. "Don't hang up." I froze. My uncle, the one who had stood awkwardly at the back during the break-in, the one who'd always seemed caught between loyalty and shame. "Why are you calling me?" Because you need to know what they're planning, he said, and because I can't stomach watching this anymore. I sat down hard on the bed, towel still wrapped around me. Go on. He hesitated, then sighed. The wellness check wasn't random. Jackie pushed it. Jack egged her on. They think if they can make you look unstable, nobody will believe you when you fight back over the money. My nails dug into my palm. So they're trying to gaslight me into silence? Exactly. And it's worse. Papers rustled on his end, like he was holding something. They used your name for an $8,000 kitchen renovation, charged it to the card under your credit. Cabinets, plumbing, the works. They never told you because they knew you'd never agree. For a second, I couldn't breathe. My entire body went hot. You're telling me I've been footing the bill for their kitchen remodel while they're posting margarita selfies? I'm telling you they're digging a hole, and they plan to bury you in it. Thor lifted his head, sensing my tension. I stroked his fur, trying to calm both of us. Why are you telling me this now, Mike? Why not months ago? There was a pause, heavy with regret. Because I kept hoping they'd stop. That maybe your mom would wake up and realize how cruel this is. But last night, Jackie bragged about how the cops showing up rattled you. She laughed, Anna. I couldn't... His voice cracked. I couldn't let it go anymore. For the first time in weeks, I felt something besides anger. It was fragile, but real. Relief. I wasn't completely alone. Thank you, I whispered. You don't know what this means. I think I do, he replied softly. Just promise me you'll protect yourself. They're not finished yet. When the call ended, I sat in silence, towel damp against my skin, staring at the cracks in the ceiling. My family wanted me erased, but now I had proof and, unexpectedly, an ally, and I knew exactly what I had to do next. The morning after Mike's call, I was still reeling from the $8,000 kitchen bombshell. I sat at my tiny dining table, bills spread out like landmines, when my phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from Evan, my 16-year-old cousin. Anna, can I call you? It's important. I frowned. Evan rarely reached out on his own. I typed back, yes. Seconds later, his hesitant voice filled the line. Hey, I know I shouldn't be calling, but I need to tell you something. I recorded them. My breath caught. Recorded who? Your mom, Jackie, Jack, all of them. Last weekend, in the car on the way back from the lake, they were bragging about leaving you behind, about the credit card thing. I didn't mean to snoop. I just hit record because it didn't feel right. His words tumbled out fast, nervous. Evan, I whispered, clutching the phone tighter. Do you still have it? Yeah, it's like 20 minutes long. They laughed about how you'd finally get put in your place. Jackie even said the wellness check was just the beginning. His voice cracked. I couldn't sleep after hearing that. I don't want to get in trouble, but you deserve to know. Tears burned my eyes. A kid, just 16, was braver than most of the adults in my family. You didn't do anything wrong, I said firmly. You did the right thing. Can you send me the file? There was a pause. I will, but Anna, please don't tell them it was me. I don't want Mom and Dad to hate me. I couldn't stay quiet. My chest ached with both gratitude and guilt. I promise. Your name stays out of it. Thank you, Evan. You have no idea how much this means. A notification pinged on my screen moments later, the audio file. I pressed play and heard my sister's voice, dripping with cruelty. She thinks she's independent, but she's nothing without us. Watch, we'll make her crumble. I stopped the recording, heart pounding. It was no longer my word against theirs. I had proof of their betrayal, their schemes, their malice, and it came from the one voice I never expected, Evan's. I sat back, wiping my eyes. For the first time in weeks, the balance of power shifted. My family's lies were unraveling, and thanks to Evan, I finally had something to fight with. The audio file from Evan was still echoing in my mind when another problem landed on my lap, the $8,000 kitchen renovation. My parents had charged it under my name, without permission, and now the credit company was asking questions. It wasn't just betrayal anymore. It was fraud. I sat at my laptop, fingers trembling over the keyboard. For years, I'd stayed quiet, swallowing humiliation, paying their debts, excusing their cruelty. But with Evan's recording and this fraudulent bill, silence wasn't survival anymore. It was surrender, and I was done surrendering. So, I opened Facebook. Not a private group, not a vague post. My public wall where extended relatives, old neighbors, and even my colleagues could see. My heart hammered, but my anger steadied my hands. I uploaded screenshots, the $8,000 charge under my name, the credit company's dispute notice, and a short clip from Evan's recording. Jackie's voice sneering. "She's nothing without us. Watch, we'll make her crumble." I typed slowly, choosing every word like a blade. My family told the world they were grateful for each other, but here's the truth they don't want anyone to see. They excluded me from the trip, stole my identity to fund their renovations, and now they're plotting to destroy my independence. This is what betrayal looks like when it comes from your own blood. I hit post. Within minutes, the notifications exploded. Old family friends commented in disbelief. "I can't believe they'd do this to you, Anna." Former classmates sent private messages. "Stay strong, you don't deserve this." Even a distant cousin wrote publicly, "I knew something was off at the lake trip. Thank you for telling the truth." The real eruption came an hour later. Jackie messaged me furiously, "Take it down now! You're humiliating us." My mother called 10 times in a row, leaving voicemails that swung from pleading, "Please, sweetheart, don't do this to your father," to venom, "You'll regret turning the family against us." But I didn't delete it. For once, they were the ones scrambling, not me. I leaned back, watching the storm unfold on my screen, feeling a strange mix of terror and freedom. My story wasn't hidden anymore, and now everyone would know exactly what kind of people they really were. The fallout from my public post was still raging when a new message arrived in my inbox. The sender's address was a string of random letters and numbers, clearly a burner account. My stomach tightened as I hovered over it, half expecting a virus. But the subject line read, "You should see this." Against my better judgment, I clicked. There was no text in the body, just a single attachment, a screenshot. At first, I couldn't make sense of it. A group chat titled "Clean Sweep." The participants, Jackie, Jack, and my mother. My hands went cold. The messages were time-stamped just 2 days earlier, right before the night they tried to glue my lock. Jackie, "She's too stubborn. We need to break her down completely." Jack, "I can jam the lock, make it look like she can't even keep her own place safe." Mom, "Do what you need to, but if the cops show, we say she's paranoid. Everyone already knows she's unstable." My chest tightened. They weren't acting out of desperation. They were plotting, methodical, calculated. Scrolling further, the pit in my stomach deepened. Jackie, "Once she cracks, we'll move her out. Clean sweep. New credit in our names, she won't even see it coming." Jack, "Exactly. She'll look crazy. We'll look like the ones trying to help." Mom, "Good. Keep it clean. No mistakes this time." I sat frozen in my chair, the glow of the screen casting hard shadows across my apartment. It wasn't just betrayal anymore. It was strategy. They wanted me erased. I forwarded the screenshot to myself, twice, then saved it on an external drive. My fingers shook, but my thoughts were sharp. This is evidence, proof, not just my word against theirs. Still, anger boiled through me. My phone buzzed just then. Uncle Mike. For a second, I considered ignoring it, but I picked up. "Anna." His voice was low, urgent. "Whatever you got, keep it safe. Jackie's been running her mouth. She thinks you're about to break. You're not, right?" I swallowed hard. "They're planning something bigger, Mike. It's all in writing. A whole group chat called Clean Sweep." Silence on the line, then a sharp exhale. Damn it. I knew they were crossing lines, but this is criminal. Don't confront them yet. Promise me. His words steadied me. For the first time in weeks, I didn't feel like I was losing control. I had proof. They had schemes. And now, the war wasn't just personal. It was official. I closed my laptop slowly, whispering into the quiet, "Game on." The days after uncovering the clean sweep chat felt like walking across thin ice. Every creak of the floorboards made me check the locks twice. I kept my laptop close, my phone charged, and Thor curled beside me at night. Still, nothing could have prepared me for the shrill buzz of my phone at 2:17 a.m., my security camera app flashing motion detected. Half asleep, I tapped it open. My heart slammed into my ribs. On the grainy night vision feed, 3 figures stood outside my apartment door: my mom, Jackie, and Jack. They weren't just lingering. They carried bags, trash bags stuffed with something bulky, and Jack had a tool in his hand. I sat up in bed, whispering, "No, not tonight." Thor growled low, ears rigid. On the feed, Jack crouched, wedging a thin piece of metal into my keyhole. Jackie held a flashlight, shielding it with her palm. My mom stood back, scanning the hallway like a sentry. Then Jackie pulled out a bottle of superglue. My stomach turned. This wasn't a prank. It was sabotage. They were trying to ruin my locks, make my place unlivable. I didn't hesitate. With shaking fingers, I dialed 911. "This is Anna Reynolds," I whispered, voice cracking. "There are 3 people trying to break into my apartment right now. They're family, but they don't belong here. Please hurry." The dispatcher's calm voice kept me grounded, but my eyes stayed locked on the screen. Jackie unfurled a folded paper, pressed it against my door, and smeared glue across the corners. The words, scrawled in thick black marker, froze me. "You don't deserve to live alone." Thor barked, loud and vicious, his body straining toward the door. On the feed, Jack flinched, hissed, "Hurry up!" My mom muttered something I couldn't catch, but her face, tight, furious, was burned into my mind. Then, red and blue lights sliced through the hallway. Sirens wailed closer. My intruders scattered, but not fast enough. 2 officers stormed the stairwell before they could run. Jackie tried to explain, her hands sticky with glue, while Jack shoved his tool into his pocket like it could disappear. My mom just kept repeating, "This is a misunderstanding." Minutes later, I opened the door to an officer's knock. The air reeked of glue and adrenaline. "Ms. Reynolds, we've detained them. Do you want to press charges?" I looked at my mother, eyes wild, hair falling from its clip. Jackie with glue all over her fingers, Jack puffed up but trembling. I thought of the chat, the screenshots, the years of being cut out and used. My voice was steady when I said, "Yes, every single one of them." They were led away, muttering excuses. Jackie glared at me like she could burn a hole through the wall. Jack spat, "You'll regret this." My mom, for once, had nothing to say. When the hallway finally fell silent, I locked eyes with Thor. He wagged his tail once, then curled against my leg as if he knew. The line had been crossed. There was no going back now. The night of the break-in felt like a climax, but the fallout came fast and sharper than I expected. 2 mornings later, my inbox buzzed with an email from the HR department at my father's company. They weren't writing to me directly. My name had surfaced in their fraud investigation. Apparently, the disputed charges and the police report from the attempted break-in had triggered a deeper review. My father had used his office address for several of those accounts. He was now on administrative leave pending further inquiry. When I read that line, my breath caught. For years, he'd walked around like a pillar of the family, responsible, respectable, the steady one. Now his career was unraveling, and this time, I wasn't the one cleaning up the mess. By noon, my phone lit up with messages from Jackie. "You've gone too far. Dad could lose everything. Are you happy now? How could you do this to your own family?" I didn't reply. I couldn't. Instead, I stared at the words and felt an odd mix of anger and relief. For once, the consequences were landing where they belonged. That evening, Uncle Mike called. His voice was low, heavy. "Anna, they're blaming you for everything. Your mom says you've destroyed Dad's life. Jackie is spinning it online, making you out to be some vindictive witch. Jack, well, he's fueling the fire." I closed my eyes, pinching the bridge of my nose. Mike, I didn't make them steal from me. I didn't tell them to glue my locks at 2 a.m. I know, he sighed, but you need to be ready. They're desperate. Desperate people do stupid things. The truth was, I had been ready. Evidence stacked in folders on my desk, screenshots sorted by dates and accounts. I wasn't just reacting anymore. I was preparing. That night, as I locked my new deadbolt and double-checked the window latches, I realized something. The ripple effects weren't just tearing them apart, they were pushing me toward the clarity I had needed all along. I hadn't planned to see them again so soon. But the annual family barbecue, a gathering where neighbors, extended relatives, and friends of friends always showed up, was suddenly the perfect stage. They thought it would be business as usual. Food, fake smiles, Jackie's curated photo shoots. They didn't know I was coming. I walked into the backyard with a folder tucked under my arm and a steadiness in my chest I hadn't felt in months. Conversations faltered the moment people noticed me. My mother's face froze mid-laugh, my father's hand gripped his plastic cup tighter, and Jackie muttered something sharp under her breath. "Anna," my mom said through gritted teeth, forcing a smile. "You weren't invited." I set the folder on the picnic table. "I know, but you invited the lies, so I thought I'd bring the truth." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Uncle Mike leaned against the fence, his arms crossed, silently backing me up. I pulled out the first sheet, a screenshot of charges on the joint credit card. Groceries, gas, kitchen renovations, all billed to me. Thousands of dollars. I held it up for everyone to see. They used my name, my credit, without my consent. Jack stepped forward, puffing up like he always did. "This isn't the place." "Isn't it?" I shot back. "Because you were fine using me when it suited you. You had no problem playing house with Jackie while pretending I didn't exist." Murmurs started among the relatives. Jackie's cheeks flushed. "You're making a scene, Anna." "No," I said firmly, my voice cutting through the chatter. "I'm making the truth visible." Next, I revealed a printed transcript, Evan's recording. "This is your golden boy Jack bragging about how they plan to exclude me from the trip so they could use my absence to open accounts in my name." Evan heard it all. Jack's bravado cracked. He turned toward Jackie, whispering furiously, but the damage was already done. People shifted uncomfortably, some shaking their heads. Finally, I laid down the printed screenshots of the Clean Sweep group chat. "And here's proof they plotted to break into my apartment at 2 a.m. Superglue, tools, even what excuse they'd give if the police caught them." The crowd erupted, half disbelief, half disgust. My father tried to speak, but his words tumbled out incoherent. My mother pressed her lips together, her mask shattering. Jackie's voice rose above the noise. "You're ruining us." I met her eyes, calm at last. "No, Jackie. You ruined yourselves. I just stopped covering for you." Silence followed. Even the kids sensed something irreversible had happened. Uncle Mike broke it with a low whistle and a shake of his head. I picked up my folder, tucked it back under my arm, and turned toward the gate. My legs trembled, but my voice stayed steady. "I'm done being your scapegoat. You don't get to define me anymore." As I walked out, whispers swirled behind me, louder than any applause. It wasn't triumph I felt. It was release. And for the first time in years, that was enough. The air at the barbecue had been thick with whispers when I walked away, but it didn't take long for them to track me down. That same evening, as twilight settled over the neighborhood, there was a knock on my apartment door. Not frantic pounding this time, but sharp, deliberate. I opened it to find my parents, Jackie and Jack, standing in the hall, their faces set like stone. Uncle Mike wasn't with them. "We're not leaving until you hear us out," my mother said, her tone clipped. I leaned against the doorframe. "Funny. You never listened to me, but now I'm supposed to give you the courtesy?" My father stepped forward, jaw clenched. "You embarrassed this family in front of everyone we know. You dragged our name through the mud." "No," I shot back. "You did that the moment you stole from me, plotted against me, and pretended I didn't exist. I just made sure people finally saw it. Jackie's voice cracked like glass. You're jealous. That's all this is. You couldn't stand seeing me happy, so you burned it all down. I laughed bitterly. Happy? You needed to erase me to keep your version of happiness intact. What kind of sister does that? Jack, predictably, tried to play the strong man. He stepped closer, his voice low and edged with menace. You've made powerful enemies, Anna. You really think anyone's going to side with you when the dust settles? Thor growled at his feet, a reminder that this was still my ground. I met Jack's stare without flinching. Threats from a man who leeches off my sister's family don't scare me. You can puff your chest all you want. It doesn't change the facts. For the first time, my mom faltered. Her eyes darted between us, and I saw it, the fear of losing control. Anna, if you keep this up, there's no coming back. We'll have no choice but to cut you off for good. Something in me snapped, but not with anger, with clarity. Good. Because I've been begging for scraps of belonging my whole life, and all I ever got was debt and betrayal. You think cutting me off is punishment? It's freedom. They had no response. My father's lips pressed into a thin line, Jackie's eyes burned with hatred, and Jack muttered something I didn't bother to catch. I closed the door slowly, locking it behind me. For once, I wasn't shaking. I wasn't afraid. I felt lighter. The echo of the lock sliding shut behind my family still lingered in my chest when I sat down at my desk. For years, I'd been the quiet daughter who smoothed things over, paid the bills, let their chaos roll downhill onto me. But now I had something more powerful than silence. Evidence. The folder lay open, thick with screenshots of fraudulent charges, emails, and bank alerts. At the very top was the printout of the group chat Mike had slipped me, the so-called clean sweep plan. It wasn't just betrayal anymore. It was conspiracy. The next morning, I walked into the district attorney's office. My hands trembled slightly as I handed the clerk the envelope, but my voice didn't waver. I'm here to file a report for identity theft, fraud, and unlawful entry, I said. The woman raised her brows when she saw the stack of documents. This is a lot. It's everything, I replied. Every lie, every dollar, every threat. 2 hours later, I sat across from a detective in a small interview room. He studied the screenshots carefully, pausing at the messages about breaking into my apartment. They glued your lock? Tried to stage a mental health crisis? He asked, disbelief mixing with disgust. I nodded. They wanted me gone so they could keep using me. They didn't care if they had to destroy my name or my life to do it. The detective slid the folder closed. You did the right thing coming here. We'll be pursuing charges, and with this evidence, they won't just walk away. For the first time in months, I felt my shoulders unclench. Justice wasn't immediate, but it was moving. This time, the law was on my side, and they couldn't twist it to protect themselves. The weight of the courthouse doors closing behind me felt like the last page of a long, brutal chapter. For the first time in years, I wasn't walking home under their shadow. I was walking towards something that belonged only to me. A week later, I stood at the edge of Narragansett Bay, the salty air tangling in my hair. Before me was a small cedar-shingled house with peeling paint and a crooked porch. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't polished, but it was mine. The realtor smiled. It'll need some work, but you've got good bones here. Solid foundation. I traced my hand along the weathered railing, breathing in the scent of the ocean. That's all I need, I whispered. Thor bounded through the open doorway like he already owned the place. His nails clicked across the wooden floors, tail wagging furiously. I laughed, the sound echoing against empty walls that felt more like freedom than loneliness. I spent the first night on an air mattress with a single lamp and a blanket, the waves outside my window a lullaby I hadn't realized I'd been craving. Lying there, I texted Mike. I'm finally home. His reply came quick. Not just home, safe. I stared at those words until my eyes blurred. For the first time in a long while, I believed them. This house wasn't just shelter, it was a declaration. No matter how much they tried to erase me, I was still here, stronger, untouchable, rebuilding not just walls and floors, but myself. The morning sun spilled through the salt-streaked windows of my new home, painting the walls in shades of gold. I stood on the porch, coffee warming my hands, Thor stretched out at my feet, and for the first time in years, I felt no need to look over my shoulder. Narragansett Bay was calm, waves brushing against the shore like they were breathing with me. I thought of all the storms that had dragged me here, the exclusion, the betrayal, the invasion of my own space. Every scar, every sleepless night had been the price for this view, this peace. Mike called later that day, his voice steady but warm. "You did it, Anna. You broke the cycle." "I didn't just break it," I replied softly. "I built something stronger in its place." As I hung up, I caught my reflection in the window. No longer the daughter they treated as disposable, no longer the sister in the shadows. I was someone new, defined not by what they took from me, but by what I reclaimed. This wasn't victory in the traditional sense. It was something deeper: survival, independence, and the quiet, relentless power of refusing to stay broken. If you've stayed with me through this journey, you know this isn't just about one family falling apart. It's about learning that sometimes the people meant to protect you can also be the ones who wound you the deepest. For so long, I thought my worth depended on their approval, their love. But worth isn't given, it's claimed. I learned that drawing boundaries isn't cruelty, it's survival. That silence, when used wisely, can be louder than shouting. And that walking away isn't weakness, it's strength in its rawest form. Yes, I lost a family, but I gained something they could never give me: myself. And with that, I gained the courage to start over, to rebuild, to breathe again without fear. If you're listening and you've ever felt unwanted, betrayed, or invisible, let my story remind you. You are not extra, you are not disposable, and you don't need anyone's permission to choose yourself. So take the first step. Close the door on what hurts you, and open the window to what heals you. And if my story moved you, please hit like, subscribe, share it with someone who needs to hear this, and leave your thoughts below. Your voice matters too.